Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. I am Alexa Adamo Valverde, a member of the Worship Associate Ministry. Welcome to all who are visiting our church or joining us for the first time. Please bring your attention to the special note on the back of the order of service. Welcome guests and newcomers. I would also like to welcome those attending online. You will find a complete order of service on the link in the Sunday email and on the church website. Hymn lyrics will be displayed on the live stream screen. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. As an inclusive church community, we require masks during the 9:30 service and religious education programs. However, masks are optional during the 11:15 church service and religious ed programs. Masks are also optional outdoors and during the in-person Sunday social held immediately following service. The online Sunday social is hosted by Rachel Rose and will be held at 1 p.m. The Zoom link is in the weekly announcements and the Sunday morning email. And please, if you haven't already done so, turn off or silence any cell phones to maintain a worshipful experience.
I guess not, yeah. It's awfully far away. My name's Glenn Merbach. I'm the music director here, and I'm head of the music team. I'm here to tell you about this year's annual music gala, which is on Saturday, April 22nd. And every year, for those of you new to the church, we have a music gala, and basically there's two purposes of it. The first is to showcase and allow all the musicians and of the church to display their talents around a certain theme, and the second is to raise funds for a cause that's appropriate for that year. So this year, and we're raising funds to improve the sound system. We have wireless headset mics that we use for the pageants and the galas and the plays and all that are kind of getting a little long in the tooth, and also just a handheld wireless mic. So we're going to try to improve the sound system and use the funds for that. And this year's theme is based on Disney music. The Disney company is celebrating their 100th anniversary this year, and we're entering our fourth year of kind of coming out of the COVID pandemic. And so I thought a good way to kind of lift our spirits was to do music of Disney, which is kind of known for happy endings. So we have a whole bunch of people in the church that have we opened it up not just to be like the classic Disney, When You Wish Upon a Star, but also remember the Frozen franchise and the Moana. We're doing a medley from Moana, and there's a song from Encanto with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and also we're opening it up so that anything Disney has its hands on, which is about everything, is so that means like the Beatles' Get Back was on Disney Channel, so. There's some Beatles songs in there, and also some music from Soul. So anyway, it's going to be a wonderful evening, and 7 o'clock on April 22nd. And this year, for the first time since 2019, we are going to be able to have like an after party in the community room. So we'll have the band. Here are actually a couple people playing in the band today are going to be in the band for that too. They'll be accompanying the singers at the gala, and then moving over to the community room to play some dance music, and we'll have some dessert and some drinks. And so it'll be kind of as close to the old days as we can this year. So we hope you'll come out, and there'll be publicity about it the next few weeks. April 22nd, 7 p.m., right here in the sanctuary. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Please stand in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 357, Bright Morning Stars in the Gray Hymnal. Come in. Come into this sacred space and know that your presence here adds to its sacredness. Bring your ears to listen to the strains of music and to listen to all that silence has to say. Bring your voice. Add your voice to the singing. Speak out and share what you know to be true. Bring your hands that play and create and heal and hold. Bring your heart, your beating, loving, yearning heart. Come in to this sacred space. Come, let us worship together. You will find the words for our chalice lighting in your order of service, and if you wish to do so, please join me in reading them. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the previous gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. And now it is time for our offertory. Freely we have received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit, and gladly we will bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, there is a QR code inside the order of service, which can be read by your cell phone's camera, and there is also information on how to donate on the church's website. And we will now receive the morning offering.
I may not be a musician, but I make a pretty good roadie, if you ask me. Each week, we hold in our service a time for sharing the joys and the sorrows that we bring with us into this community. So at this time, if anybody has come with either a significant personal joy or sorrow, you're invited to come forward, place a stone in the bowl, say your name, and briefly share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust. Are there any joys and sorrows? I've got one to share. Brenda Rogers emailed me earlier this week asking me to place a stone. Brenda wanted me to share that her cousin Richard Green lost his wife to leukemia after a courageous 6-year fight, and Brenda asks that we keep Richard and his family in our thoughts and prayers. And I want to place one final stone for all those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken this morning. This morning's service was a really fun one to sort of collaborate and create, because the focus, rather than on a sermon, is on the piece of music which stands in as the central text, and then the rest of the service kind of revolves around the inspiration of that. And earlier this week, I was working with Alexa, our worship associate, Alexa Adamo Valverde, about what to do for the different parts of the service. And Alexa shared that she had listened to the piece of music and had written a meditation based on her response to it. And so I want to invite us into that spirit of meditation as we listen to this prayer.
Sacred Heart Inspired. O great divine, let this moment fill me with notes of string and echo, companion and complement, sunshine and determination, notes of purpose. I open my ears to listen, and my heart stirs. I dance before you with my child self, and I remember who I am, here and now. O spirit of the fields and of the day, I wander over to hear you play. I look in wonder and awe at this life I lead, these people I love, these friends I saw. Time marches on, and memories seem to fade in moments. At times, I feel dismay, but then I breathe fully. I lift my hands out to my side. And again, I open my ears to this sound that fills me, moves me, delivers me to the profound. I shake my head, my hair dances, my heart soars, and then the music shakes me up again. It changes as I change. It frees itself into a new stanza, a new tempo, a whole different composition, and we land here. I pause. I look around. The strings, like ballet feet, they pop, skip, flee, surprise me. In the distance, I hear another subversive melody, or is that just me? All together now, I've come to this place. I've grown with you, and here we are, much more mature, and yet we are still dancing. We can still surprise and retreat, get in your face and scream. These notes that we are, dancing in the dreams, moving on the page, fully realized, fully free.
is that thunder I heard out there? Yeah? How's that for dramatic? This is really fun to get to write a response to a piece of music that I wasn't familiar with and got to explore for the first time over the past couple of weeks. And it's also a little intimidating to ask to speak to a piece of music that is new to me when we've got like experts standing behind me. So I want to say that in listening to Peter Ostroushko's Sacred Heart, I was transported to two different places. And I'm going to describe those places. Peter Ostroushko was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1953. He died in Minneapolis in 2021 at the far, far too young age of 67. He was, by some, best known as a regular musical contributor to NPR's Prairie Home Companion, which broadcasts out of St. Paul, Minnesota. So you can't get really more Minnesota than that. And 2-hour drive due west. I'm not going to say, a 2-hour drive due west of Minneapolis, there is a tiny town called Sacred Heart, population 500. The town's Wikipedia page notes that Sacred Heart has a state-of-the-art baseball complex, as well as a park with a playground and charcoal grills for cooking. And then that was it in the list of things. So imagine baseball field and cornfield. Think a little like Field of Dreams-esque vibe going on. Now, I've never been to Sacred Heart, Minnesota, but I have been within 50 miles of it. Outside of an equally small town 50 miles away from Sacred Heart, there's a Lutheran retreat center and organic farm called Shalom Hills, and I attended about 7 or 8 week-long minister retreats there, amidst Minnesota's windswept plains and endless cornfields. And in listening to Sacred Heart, the first place I was transported to was that place, 50 miles from Sacred Heart, especially during the first movement, the first 4 minutes. I was transported back to the prairies and the amber waves of grain of the Midwest. I heard, as I listened, the breeze blowing across the prairie, the whirring of jumping grasshoppers, the call of meadowlarks. The first 4 minutes are pastoral, calm, gentle, peaceful, bucolic. The movement in those pieces are held within a greater stillness. It's the music of Heartland Americana. And then there was the second movement. And I was transported somewhere else. When the drums and electric bass come in, my first thought, the first thing I associated with, was the climactic scene in The Last Temptation of Christ, directed by Martin Scorsese, with the soundtrack to that movie done by Peter Gabriel. Now hear me out. As a teenager, I loved the movie The Last Temptation of Christ, and I especially loved Peter Gabriel's soundtrack. This was when Peter Gabriel was going through a world music phase, and the soundtrack pulls all these artists from across the Middle East, and he creates this immersive soundscape of the Holy Land, using instruments like the Kurdish duduk, the Turkish ney flute, the kemence, and the surdu. But the point was, the soundtrack, for most of the movie, just transports you to the Middle East. just as the first part of Sacred Heart transported me to Middle America. But here's the thing. The piece that plays, the music that plays at the climax of The Last Temptation of Christ is a piece called It Is Accomplished. And it's here for the first time in the movie's entire score that Peter Gabriel introduces a drum set, an electric bass, and a Hammond organ. And the tempo picks up, and the rhythm section pushes it forward, and it builds, and the music elevates, and you're transported in that moment out of Jerusalem in the year 33 and into this other space. All this is to say that when I listened to that second movement of Peter Ostroushko's Sacred Heart, I felt the same way that Peter Gabriel made me feel. Elevated, raised, transported, and transcended. And this would be very random and trivial and personal if it weren't for the second meaning of Sacred Heart, which is also the first meaning of Sacred Heart. That is, Sacred Heart as a Christian term related to Jesus' enduring and shining love that overcomes all obstacles. And isn't it something that Ostroushko's Sacred Heart would transport me to another piece of music dealing with Jesus' Sacred Heart, and that both those pieces would have the same effect? All in there, there's somehow that Peter Ostroushko connected me with Peter Gabriel, who connected me with St. Peter. The Sacred Heart, like I said earlier, is an iconic image, especially found in Catholic and Orthodox Christianity. It's an image with a lot going on. To imagine it, you can imagine a heart. If you're familiar with it, then you can imagine it. If you're not, imagine a heart. The heart is depicted with a wound, often circled by a crown of thorns. And the heart is depicted with flames rising up from it, and depicted with beams of light shining forth from it. In some depictions, the heart appears sort of in front of Jesus' robes. In others, Jesus holds the heart in his hands, and still others, the heart just floats about in the sky. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't typically use the Sacred Heart of Jesus as an object of prayer, meditation, worship, mystical contemplation. You can cue the Garrison Keillor jokes. But transcendence is also a universal religious experience. And to me, that is what this piece of music attempts to capture, and capture extraordinarily well. That transcendence that creates this landscape, and then the drums and the bass and the tempo kick in, and all of a sudden we're raised above that landscape. Universalism holds that religious experience is not something that is unique to any one culture, to any one people, to any one background, to any one religious expression, but rather it's something that any of us and all of us can access. And so as you think back to that piece of music, I invite you to contemplate those moments in your life where you felt lifted or elevated, where you felt a connection and a spirit beyond what is right there in front of you. When we were creating the service, decided to end with one hymn that I think plays nicely and plays nicely with Sacred Heart. Our closing hymn is, I think, a hymn about that communion of the immanent with the transcendent. It's about that spirit that we long for. In the hymn's lyrics, this spirit is poetically rendered as a lone wild bird, just as the tradition also renders spirit as a dove or as an eagle. And so as we sing our closing hymn of the morning, I want us to invite and to imagine that great spirit coming to rest in our own hearts. I invite you to join with me as we close in singing number 15 in the hymnal, The Lone Wild Bird, and I'd invite us to rise as we sing.
Please remain standing in body or spirit. The words for Extinguishing the Chalice are in your order of service. Please join me if you wish to do so. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We're ending a little bit early today, so just a reminder that RE is still in session, and so just remain in the commons area or cast courtyard until regular service ending time for those picking up your children. Our closing song, please join me in thanking all first, and thanking all who contributed to making this amazing service so worshipful this morning. And now join us in singing Shalom. The words are in your order of service. And as you're comfortable, please either hold hands with the person next to you or cross your arms over your heart.